Islam is a major world religion founded on the revelations of the Prophet Muhammad. Its origins can be traced back to Mecca, which is now part of Saudi Arabia. The influence of Islam extends across a vast region, spanning from North Africa and the Middle East to South and Central Asia, reaching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Those who practice Islam are referred to as Muslims, and they make up a significant portion of the global population, with over 1 billion adherents. The term Islam itself conveys the concepts of surrender and submission, specifically submission to the will of the one God, known as Allah in Arabic. Muslims are individuals who have willingly submitted to this belief. The fundamental creed of Islam is concise: there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the prophet of God. In the year 610, Muhammad experienced a pivotal event. He received the first of numerous revelations from God through the angel Gabriel. These revelations conveyed the message that there exists only one God, a departure from the prevailing belief in multiple deities among the Arabs. This God was portrayed as the creator of the world, destined to judge humanity. This message shared common ground with Judaism and Christianity, both of which also promoted monotheism, the belief in a single God. Muhammad perceived his role not as introducing something entirely new, but rather as continuing and concluding a line of prophetic messages that originated with figures like Adam, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, emphasizing the oneness of God, or Allah. In Islamic belief, Jesus is seen as a divinely inspired messenger rather than the Son of God. Despite these shared aspects, Islam remained distinct from Judaism and Christianity, eventually evolving into its own empire and civilization. Muhammad's revelations were compiled into the Quran, the holy scripture of Islam. The Quran provided guidance for Muhammad's followers in terms of beliefs and behavior. As Muslims believed that Muhammad's actions and words were divinely inspired, accounts of his deeds and sayings were collected as hadith. Initially transmitted orally, these reports were later documented in writing to provide additional guidance for believers. Alongside the Quran, Islam is centered around the belief in a singular, compassionate, and just God who is the creator and sustainer of the universe. This God calls upon all individuals to believe in him and worship him due to his compassion, while his justice ensures that everyone will be judged based on their actions on the last day. This day will see the resurrection of all deceased individuals, who will either be rewarded with paradise or punished with hell. Within Islam, humanity is considered the pinnacle of creation, entrusted by God to care for the entirety of the created world. However, humans are also seen as vulnerable and susceptible to disbelief and disobedience. The root cause of this fragility is often identified as pride, as people tend to overlook their limitations and consider themselves self-sufficient. To counteract this inherent weakness, God has sent prophets as messengers to convey his divine will. These prophets, who were human like everyone else, received God's messages through angels or inspiration. Despite this guidance, many people have chosen to disbelieve in Allah, often due to the influence of Satan. Nevertheless, God remains forgiving, ready to pardon individuals and restore them to their original sinless state. The lives of Muslims are predominantly lived within their faith community, but they also encompass the broader world and all of humanity. The concept of brotherhood is emphasized, with the mission to promote good and discourage evil. Social and economic justice is a fundamental expectation, and Muslims are encouraged to spread their message worldwide. In the early days of Islam, conflicts arose with those who opposed its teachings. The concept of jihad, or holy struggle, was introduced. Muhammad explained that the greater jihad is an internal battle against oppression and wrongdoing, while the lesser jihad involves resisting external forces of evil and oppression. It's essential to note that Islam does not endorse the forced conversion of anyone, as the Quran prohibits this. Muhammad identified a set of fundamental principles, known as the 5 pillars of Islam, to provide a solid foundation for the Islamic community. These pillars include the basic creed, Shahadatain, regular prayers, Salat or Salah, pilgrimage to Mecca, Hajj, fasting during Ramadan, Psalm, and charitable giving, Zakat. These pillars serve as vital cornerstones of Islamic practice and faith. The first cornerstone of Islam is the Shahada, which is the profession of faith. It rests on the declaration that there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. This assertion forms the fundamental basis upon which membership within the Islamic community is established. Islam recognizes 2 types of prayer. The first is personal, devotional, and spontaneous, dua, not bound by specific rituals or formulas. The second is ritualistic and often performed in congregation, salat. This involves set words and postures, rak'ah, carried out 5 times daily, at dawn, midday, mid-afternoon, sunset, and before sleeping. Before praying, individuals perform ablutions by washing their hands, feet, and face. A designated caller, the muezzin, announces and chants the call to prayer from a raised platform or minaret tower at the mosque, the communal place of worship. Group prayer begins with the imam, the prayer leader, standing at the front of the mosque facing Mecca, the holy city of Islam. The congregation forms rows behind him. without seats in the mosque. Each prayer comprises various units involving standing, kneeling, and prostration. During every change in posture, the phrase "God is great" is recited. Friday is the primary day for communal worship. Believers gather at the mosque to pray, listen to sections of the Koran, and hear a sermon derived from the text. This sermon can address moral, social, or political topics. Unlike some other religions, Islam does not have an ordained clergy. However, there are individuals specially trained in religion, tradition, and law who may deliver the Friday sermon if deemed competent. The Hajj is an annual ritual that all Muslims are expected to undertake at least once in their life, provided they are physically and financially capable. It involves thousands of Muslims converging on Mecca in Saudi Arabia during the last month of the Islamic, Arabic lunar, calendar, Dhul Hijjah. The purpose is to visit the holy shrine of the Kaaba within the Great Mosque. Tradition states that the shrine was constructed by Abraham, a prophet considered significant in Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. The pilgrimage culminates with the Feast of Sacrifice, one of the major festivals in the Islamic, Arabic lunar, year. For centuries, the Hajj has brought together Muslims from various nations, fostering a sense of belonging to a global community. In the 20th century, official delegations from Muslim countries participated in the Hajj, facilitating discussions on socio-political matters. Approximately 2 million pilgrims partake in the Hajj annually. The second chapter of the Quran states, "Fasting is decreed for you as it was decreed for those before you." Because the Quran was initially revealed to Muhammad during the month of Ramadan, the entire month is designated for fasting. From dawn until sunset, individuals abstain from eating, drinking, and smoking. Those who are ill or traveling are permitted to postpone fasting according to the Quran. The conclusion of the fast initiates the second major festival in the Islamic, Arabic lunar, year, lasting several days. The final pillar is the zakat, an obligatory tax that Muslims contribute to either the state or the community. This act serves as both a religious devotion and a means of aiding the less fortunate and needy members of society. The second chapter of the Quran emphasizes that there shall be no compulsion in religion. This indicates that in Islam, diversity coexists with unity. Once a believer has affirmed their allegiance to Allah as the one God, they are considered a Muslim and rely on God's guidance for their beliefs and actions. The collective agreement of the community acts as a safeguard against straying into incorrect practices. Unlike certain other religions, Islam has not shown an excessive fear of differing beliefs and practices. Muhammad himself reportedly stated, "Difference of opinion in my community is a manifestation of divine mercy." While this doesn't mean there haven't been periods of persecution due to differing beliefs or practices throughout Islamic history, such instances have been relatively rare compared to other major religions. Major divisions in Islam have primarily arisen over matters of leadership within the Muslim community, referred to as the caliphate, rather than doctrinal disputes. Later, sects did emerge based on divergent doctrinal and practical focuses. Nevertheless, these various groups have recognized one another as Muslims based on their shared allegiance to Allah. The origins of these divisions trace back to the early days of Islam. After Muhammad's death, the Muslim community lacked a universally accepted leader, or caliph, derived from khalifa, meaning both successor and deputy. This leadership vacuum coincided with a tumultuous era when Muslim armies were embarking on a century of conquest, establishing a vast new empire. The initial three caliphs, Abu Bakr, Muhammad's father-in-law, Umar, and Uthman ibn Affan, were all close companions of the Prophet. Uthman belonged to the influential Umayyad clan in Mecca and was a son-in-law of Muhammad. His assassination in 656 resulted in his replacement by another son-in-law of the Prophet, Ali ibn Abi Talib, sparking a civil war among different Muslim factions. Ali's assassination in 661 further raised the question of rightful caliphate leadership. This event marked the first significant schism in Islam, leading to the division between Sunnites, or Sunnis, and Shiites, the latter being followers of Ali. Sunnism, the largest branch of Islam, was shaped during the early schisms in the faith. These divisions, stemming from matters of leadership, belief, and practice, allowed Sunnites to define their religious positions based on the Quran, the sayings of the Prophet, Hadith, and reactions to what they considered sectarian perspectives. Sunnites consider their sect as representing Orthodox Islam, embodying the consensus of the Islamic community against deviations. In contrast to their condemnation of schisms, Sunnism embraced a trend of toleration to accommodate a wide range of Orthodox viewpoints, in accordance with Muhammad's emphasis on diversity. This tolerance allowed various sects and schools of thought to coexist within the broader Islamic community. No group would be excluded unless they explicitly renounced Allah and Muhammad. This approach countered efforts to narrow the concept of Islam by selectively using passages from the Quran or the Hadith. Following the assassination of Ali, his followers, known as the Shiites, demanded the restoration of community rule to Ali's family. Through his marriage to Fatima, Muhammad's daughter, Ali was related to the Prophet, and the Shiites claimed the divine right of Muhammad's family to lead. Shi'ism developed distinct doctrines and various sects over its history. Out of reverence for Ali, it regarded the Imam, the community leader, as infallible, possessing the hidden, true meaning of Quranic revelations. Orthodox Shiites acknowledge 12 Imams, with the 12th Imam believed to return near the end of time to establish truth and justice. Until his return, scholars called mujtahids interpret law and doctrine. In contrast to Sunnites, who emphasized a broader scope for tolerance, Shiites believed that fallible human-derived knowledge was insignificant. The Imam's pronouncements held greater weight than community consensus. This limited room for divergent viewpoints. Shi'ism also introduced a passion history commemorating the violent death of Ali's son, Hussein, celebrated with orations, plays, and processions. This has influenced Sunnite believers in passion plays. The impact of Shi'ism is also felt in the reverence for Ali and his family and respect for his descendants. Shi'ism further fragmented into sects, including the Ismailis, who diverged based on the identity of the seventh Imam. The Ismailis await his return and are mainly found in East Africa, Yemen, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Several other sects emerged, including the Nizaris, Zaydis, and Druzes. Among them, the Druzes are notable and present in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Jordan, and the West Bank. A non-Muslim religion, the Baha'i faith, evolved from Shi'ism in 19th century Iran. Shiite Muslim Ali Muhammad inspired it. Later founded by Baha'u'llah, Shi'ism accounts for less than 10% of the Islamic world, with Iran having the highest concentration. The 1979 Iranian government takeover by Ayatollah Khomeini sparked concerns of Shiite fundamentalism spreading across the Middle East. During the early years of Islam, certain groups emerged that sought a deeper connection with God beyond the external rituals of religion. These individuals yearned for a religion rooted in personal inner experiences and ascetic practices that distanced them from worldly luxuries. By the 8th century, these groups came to be known as Sufis, possibly because of the woolen garments, suf in Arabic, they adorned. Sufism's evolution can be divided into three phases: asceticism, characterized by a rejection of worldly pleasures; ecstasy, marked by an intense longing for communion with God; and cognition, a pursuit of higher knowledge beyond that attainable by the average Muslim. Operating mainly within the Sunnite branch of Islam, Sufism offered a counterbalance to the growing influence of the Shiite movement, which also emphasized exceptional divine knowledge. Initially a parallel movement within Sunnism, Sufism underwent a significant change in the 11th century when theologian al-Ghazali attempted to integrate the mystical doctrines with the orthodox beliefs of the Sunnite community. He urged theologians to develop a science of the heart for all believers, emphasizing that Islamic doctrine should encompass inner spiritual life, rather than remaining mere external rituals.